Hi everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in for today's video interview. I'm Tony Vestel from Social Hire and delighted to be joined today by David Hershfield. And we're going to be talking about outsourcing and dispelling some of the myths that are out there around outsourcing. So David, thanks very much for joining today. Would you like to just start by introducing yourself and your company, what it is you do, and then we'll dive into these questions.
Absolutely, Tony. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is David Hershfield. The company that we have is called Fideseo. Fides is derived from the Latin word for faith, trust, and honor, and so that is where that name comes from. My background is primarily in digital product management, user experience, and content, with some technology interspersed. Most of my career was spent in Silicon Valley working for companies like PayPal and Adobe. Not the famous people at PayPal who all went on to do great things, but the ones who came after and basically made the company grow from $800 million to $4 billion in revenue. So we're sort of a quiet second wave of PayPalians. Fideseo is a managed outsourcing firm. We basically have two offerings. One is that we help companies fill the gaps with resources through the use of fractional or part-time resources. We call those on-demand resources across a wide variety of functions. And the second is an outsourced service that's managed that helps companies manage their vendor relationships to get greater value out of them and to protect themselves from cybersecurity threats and risk.
Terrific. Well, let's dive straight into the questions around outsourcing. So, if you think of the economy at the moment and the prevailing winds that are out there, what do you see as the future of outsourced services?
Well, there are two trends that have kind of gotten us to today, right? The first is there's a challenge of expertise through resources. That's the first trend. So increasingly, there are specialized roles for which there are not enough people. The numbers are pretty stark. If you think of roles that are at high level, like chief information security officers or risk officers, and then you go into product development teams that are developing digital experiences, there's really a great need for a pool of these resources that are qualified. And by 2030 in the United States, there will be a million open jobs because there won't be enough people to fill them with the skills that are needed. And that's just a demographic and skill reality. There isn't really any way to close that other than the fact that for tech jobs, when you look at these companies that have digital transformations, they're going to need to fill them, and outsourcing it or providing resources in a way that, in our case, is fractional, meaning that they're part-time, is a really great way to do this. The number two trend is, and COVID accelerated this trend, when everyone was sequestered in their homes, suddenly the idea of working at home became a little more required. And on top of that, people began to also recognize that their quality of life meant more to them than work in many cases, and especially the tech workers. And so many people moved to other places. They took on less financial challenge, so they didn't have to work as long. And so the combination of being able to work at home, being able to live in a place where you don't have to work full time, meant that all of a sudden now there are all these people who want to work part time, and they are in large part matched up nicely with the many roles and the needs of the earlier trend, which is there are not enough people to fill the jobs. So it plays right into our hands of, how do we address this as a society?
There's quite a range, I think, out there in terms of how much companies do turn to outsourcing in their businesses. I mean, what are some of the reasons that you see why some companies are heavily reliant on outsourcing and why some are, reluctant to do much of it at all?
Well, it's a great question because it goes right to the heart of how hard is it to engage or have projects done well or tasks done well with an outsourced firm. And so companies that are very reluctant to do this have either had a bad experience, which happens. There are unfortunately quite a few firms out there, and they place people in the wrong roles, or the price is way higher than they expect because they don't work on a fixed fee basis, but rather it's hourly. And so you feel like you're getting charged like you're working with an attorney, and that's not a good thing. Sometimes also there are concerns about communication, the optics for other employees, like, oh, are you going to outsource my whole department because you're outsourcing this? There are data privacy concerns, all very reasonable concerns. But there are also even misconceptions about the talent. Like the talent might not be as good as what I could get myself. But it really comes down to finding the right partner, making sure that you choose the right functions and tasks to perform, and getting that positive experience under your belt. We have plenty of examples of companies that were very hesitant to do this. And then once they started to work with us, even just trying it with one individual, they realized that it was, first of all, very financially feasible, helped them save quite a bit of money, and they got a lot of expertise, and they got committed people. And we work in a way through managed outsourcing to make that communication flow well. We don't just parachute somebody in and say goodbye, good luck. That's not how it works. And so whether it's chief information security officers or an entire product development team for a startup that can't find people or can't get enough people to do something quickly, these are all really good use cases for outsourcing that overcome those reluctant companies. On the flip side, companies can save 30 to 70% of their expenses by fractionally outsourcing certain things, and that's something that many CFOs like to hear.
I'm sure. So, for business owners, leaders thinking of doing more outsourcing, what are some of the key differences between classic outsourcing and between managed outsourcing that you have?
Well, classic outsourcing is when a firm performs these specific tasks and work projects, and like I said, they just parachute that person in, and then that person is intended to work directly for and only for the person who's inside the company that's trying to fill the role. So it becomes like another managed individual. And those can work okay with the right people. And that means the right people managing the communication and the relationship inside the company, as well as, of course, the right person performing the outsourced tasks. So that's classic outsourcing. Or you can just take an entire function. This is one thing that happened a lot in the last 25 years, and just push it all overseas to another country, primarily to save cost, on cost, and then just let them run the whole thing. Both of those can work. So I want to be very clear about that. Where managed outsourcing differs, and this is what a company like ours, Fideseo, provides, is we manage the team, we co-manage it with the individuals or individual inside the company. And whether you've outsourced an entire function to us like vendor management, or a product development team, or it's an individual like a chief information security officer or another C-level role, we are in constant communication and working closely with the person on the inside so that they know who to go to if there's a challenge. We're supporting the individual or the team. We're providing a communication link between the two companies. And what's nice about that is it's, as managed outsourcing is better for not only the client, in our view, but also for the resources that we're providing, because they don't want to be just dropped in and, sink or swim. They want to make sure that they're getting the support that they need. So in many ways, we act like an extension of the company, and we work closely with them to make sure that they get that return on investment and they get what they need out of the resources. And so it's essentially the idea of management, right? That's really what we're talking about, and as the name implies. So not too many people talk about this, I have to say. It's not a widely discussed. People just lump outsourcing into one big bucket, but that's an important distinction. We believe that our level of successes has been directly related to the ability to manage that outsourced function and resources.
David, been some really great insights today. Thank you. For anyone watching who'd like to find out more, continue the conversation with you, what's it best for them to do?
Well, they can reach out to Fideseo.com. That's Fideseo.com. There's a way for us to reach out to us there. You can also email us at info@Fideseo.com, and we will happily respond and get back to you right away. We commit to getting back to people within 24 hours when they email us or contact us via our website, and we've held true to that throughout our history.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of the week, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Appreciate it being here. Thanks, everyone.